Hi, I'm Jackie Nugara. I'm a coach, counsellor and psychotherapist, and I've been in that field for about 25 years. I'm extremely excited and very grateful that Prosper has invited me to come on the online prosperity show. Today's conversation is kind of covering lots of different grounds. We're from my career history to my childhood and how I've overcome adversity, my strong belief in kind of healing, my strong belief in energetics and spirituality, in neuroscience, and also how we can kind of integrate more holistically our mind, body, soul, spirit connection and body. And yeah, I just really want to thank Prosper because he's awesome and I love what he does, and I have similar aligned values to him, and I'm very thankful that he invited me to come and speak on his show.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dig deep into the real people doing remarkable work, their stories, their lives, and their experiences. And usually, if you notice, it's people who convert their trials into transformation, and they actually deliver real solutions and problems many of us live with in silence. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and I'm really excited to be presenting Jackie Nugara on the show with us today. Now, Jackie, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Prosper. I really appreciate you inviting me to come on your show.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to dig deep into how you have turned everything that came your way into something that other people can actually learn from and also reference from. So I really appreciate the journey that you've been on.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, for those that are watching right now, if you've ever felt stuck, drained, or unsure of your direction, or maybe wondered how to rewire your mind and energy so you can actually live in alignment and abundance, I think you are in the right place. As we have already introduced Jackie, I really want to set the stage for you because her work helps people heal from deep trauma, raise their energetic vibration, reclaim clarity, and ultimately live lives of purpose and abundance. All right. In short, she actually helps people move from exhaustion, overwhelm, stackiness, emotional pain, and actually regulate themselves so that they are in alignment, in flow, in resilience, and also empowered creation. So I want you to get ready because this is going to be a journey. You're going to hear stories, you're going to feel the tension of this whole transition, and you're actually going to see the hidden scars of one person's past that have actually become the very soil from which powerful healing work emerges. Now, Jackie, I could go on and talk about things I am not even qualified to talk about. I was looking you up and I saw there was a lot of cat activity on your profile. Your life before really was rich in diversity. You ran a pet shop, glamorous pet accessories, even cat murals, and before that you worked in marketing and you were even a DJ. So I don't know, are we gonna hear some music with time? Or
that was a long time ago, but yes, I've had a very diverse career. I started working in the Commonwealth Bank when I was like 19, so I was working in kind of finance, and then once I graduated I moved into marketing within the bank, and then after 10 years I finished up with the bank and then was working for a software company, also as a product manager and a marketing manager. And then I decided that I'd had enough of marketing for a little while and decided that my ex and I were living in the inner suburbs of Sydney, kind of highly kind of gay area. Lots of people had pets, and we had pets ourselves, and there was no pet shop close by, so decided to open my own pet shop. And I had that for 5 years. And then my ex-partner got a contract over in the UK, so we moved to the UK. And over in the UK, I worked as a marketing manager, and which was an amazing experience over there. I actually ended up working for a woman that I knew from Sydney. I ran into her on the street. So if you're kind of talking about prosperity and manifesting, so when I first got to London, I didn't have a working visa. It took a little while for my visa to come through. So I was watching the Oprah show every day and keeping my gratitude journal. And I was working in an internet cafe in Covent Garden. And then I was walking home one night, and I saw this woman that I knew from Sydney who was doing a mentoring program run by the Department of State and Regional Development. And halfway through the second program, she left to go and work in London. And anyway, I followed her, like I kind of stalked her on Regent Street. And then we were talking, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm managing an internet cafe, but I'm looking for a marketing job." And she said, "I have a marketing manager's job working for me. Would you be interested? Send me your CV." And yeah, I worked with her for 2.5 years while I was in London, and we're still friends today. So yeah, all the gratitude that I was doing, writing in my gratitude journal every day, it was a really great kind of manifesting experience, because all the recruitment agencies were telling me that I wasn't going to get a job there because I only had a 2-year working visa. And so I ran into Christine on the street, and she ended up offering me a job. So.
Oh, I like that. And I also like how you preface this with Oprah, because apparently Oprah was everyone's friend. When she would talk to everyone, people would actually make time to watch the shows. And speaking of manifesting, I actually heard manifestation through Jim Carrey as an interview that he did with Oprah, where he put like a check in his wallet, and he kept moving around with it up until that money manifested in his account. So
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I got into manifesting back in 1993, but I wasn't very good at it because I wasn't really aligned to it. I think at 60, I'm a lot better at understanding the concepts and actually being able to practice the concepts. But when I lived in London, it was a high manifestation time. I was in a very high vibe when I lived over there. And in my 20s, I was a DJ. I used to work in the bank during the week. I was studying marketing, and then I would DJ on the weekend. So I've had a very kind of diverse career before I got into coaching, then counseling, and then into psychotherapy.
I like that. Now, obviously, you're talking times where it was not even Y2K yet. Around 1993, I don't think a lot of people would understand what manifestation was at that particular time. Hence, Oprah was doing all these shows and things of that nature. How did you get exposed to that way of being?
Well, I grew up with the Oprah show, and Oprah's big thing is consciousness. She's really into, she's somebody who really inspires me, because her show was very much about living her values. And she's actually coming to Australia, so I'm actually going to see her on the 4th of December. She was someone who wanted the world to become conscious, and I was really lucky. Even though I had a lot of bad stuff happening at home, I went to a school that was also very much about teaching. I went to a Catholic girls' school in Melbourne, and they were very progressive, and I was very fortunate because they were also very much into teaching us about consciousness. So I had that at school, and I had that watching Oprah. And she was someone who had grown up with a lot of adversity and was really doing something good in the world. So I had her as kind of a role model. And she's 11 years older than me, so I really loved all the ideas. And she very spiritual, and I'm very spiritual. And so even though the school I went to was a Catholic school, it was also a very spiritual school. So we weren't just taught religion, we were taught spirituality. And so it really fed into my mindset from a very early age. So yeah, I wasn't working for the first 3 months. So every day I would keep my gratitude journal, and it really worked.
I thought you were just watching Oprah because Oprah was giving cars and everything on the show. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car.
No, it wasn't about that. She did, there was books that she brought around that, really changed my life. She had people like Gary Zukav on her show that wrote Seed of the Soul, Brian Weiss, who was doing Many Lives, Many Masters, about past lives. So she was bringing in a lot of things that were kind of way ahead of her time.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you'd already gotten a bit of exposure, like you say, from the Catholic school and things of that nature. But what was life like growing up, Jackie?
Besides school and Oprah, life was very, very difficult. I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma. So I grew up with a lot of domestic violence. So my parents immigrated to Australia in 1968. So I was 3 years old and my brother was like 6 months old. And we immigrated from Sri Lanka. So I had a dad that was full Sri Lankan, and my mum was half Scottish, half Sri Lankan. So I had a Scottish grandmother. And she also migrated to Australia, I think 6 months after we arrived here. So lots of domestic violence. And this went on for a long time with my dad. And my mum eventually left him. But we were kind of on the run for a long time. We didn't have anywhere to stay. So we ended up staying with one of my mum's friends. And I had I've got a younger sister as well. So she was born 1 year after our arrival in Melbourne. So myself, my two younger siblings, my grandmother, my mum, we went and stayed with my mum's friends. My mum ended up getting custody of the three of us, and my dad was supposed to take us out the next day, and he murdered her, and he took his own life in front of my brother and I. And then we didn't really know where we were going to live. We didn't know who we were going to live with. We were wards of the state. My grandmother got custody of us, which I was very close to my grandmother, my Scottish grandmother, so I felt a sense of relief knowing that we were going to live with her. But she got breast cancer probably about 3 months after my parents' murder-suicide. And then she had a 2-year battle with cancer. So I was 9 years old. I was taking my grandmother to chemo, getting my brother and sister ready for school. We also had my dad's parents living with us. And they weren't good people either. So I had a violent father. I had very mentally ill grandparents, my grandmother dying of breast cancer. And, so a lot of responsibility as a 9-year-old. I had to grow up really fast. I think I'd grown up probably even before my parents kind of murder-suicide. So my grandmother then passed away when I was 10. And then we stayed with my other grandparents looked after us for a year, which was a nightmare. And then my dad's sister and her husband moved in with my cousin. So my cousin was a year older than me. So I was the eldest in the family until I was 11, and then she moved in. And then the domestic violence continued. So my uncle was very violent with my aunt and my cousin. My aunt was very violent with my cousin and I. I ended up leaving Melbourne when I was 22 because I was still being hit. It wasn't good. By the time I was 12, I'd been raised by 5 personality disordered people who were extremely violent. I left Melbourne at 22 to get away from the abuse. And I think back in 1973, nobody talked about what happened. It was just all pushed under the rug. counseling wasn't a thing. So we were just kind of told to get on with it, pull up your socks and just get on with it, and which I did. And then at the age of 28, when my first kind of serious, intimate relationship ended, we'd been together for about 6 years or whatever. I'm gay, so it was a gay relationship. And we went to counselling, and the counsellor said to me, "You have complex PTSD." I thought I was okay. I kind of described everything as, and the counsellor said to me, "You talk about it as if you just walked down the street and just bought a loaf of bread." And so I was very dissociated, hadn't dealt with anything. And from 28, my ex and I broke up, and I continued to go to counselling. She didn't. And that was the start of my journey with kind of healing.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for letting us in on that. Now, if I could just maybe go back a little bit with,
sure,
first of all, the parents. Was there any theme around what was causing them to fight? I
don't know if you've heard of the term intergenerational trauma. There's a lot of intergenerational trauma, both on my mum's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. So I would say there's a history of abuse dating back generations on both sides. So yeah, lots of, violence, sexual abuse, all that kind of stuff. And there's Sri Lanka is a very peaceful country now. It's predominantly Buddhist, but there was a civil war there for 26 years. So even though the Buddhists and the Tamils, which are Hindus, should be peaceful religions, there was a lot of violence there. So I think there was an undercurrent of violence. I think intergenerational trauma exists in every country. Men went to war. My grandfather was in the military. Men went to war. They came back with PTSD, complex PTSD. They drank. They beat their wives. They sexually abused their children. And that was it. It was under the radar. Now these days, if we talk about it, people understand it. Parents warn their kids, but back in those days, nobody talked about it. When I was studying to be a trauma therapist, the people I was studying with showed us footage of men who came back from World War I and shell shock, and the level of PTSD, and that was written out of the medical journals.
Absolutely. I mean,
and I still think it's filtering down through society now. I think a lot of the mental health issues stem from stuff that happened in the 20th century, and it's still like, if we don't deal with our stuff deals with us.
Right. Now, while you were, obviously, because we did allude to the fact that you ended up doing so many things, and the bank and the marketing and all those things, was that maybe a sign that you didn't want to hold on to just the one thing, just in case it wouldn't?
I think it took me a while. So when I had the pet shop, the pet shop wasn't doing. It was an amazing pet shop. It got lots and lots of publicity. I had lots of famous people coming into the shop. So on the outside, it should have been a huge success. But that was my first ever business. This was my first kind of time as an entrepreneur, and it wasn't doing very well financially. So what happened was I took on a business coach, and he said to me, "I think you would make a really great coach." So I did the training with him, became a life and business coach, was doing very well. I was also kind of contracting for Optus at the same time as a marketer, doing coaching on the side. And then I had staff kind of running the shop for me, the pet shop for me. Retail wasn't really my thing. It was more the business side of it that I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, I've always had that entrepreneurial kind of spirit. And so basically my coaching practice was going really well. Then my ex-partner at the time, we were together for a very long time. We were together for 20 years. she got this contract in the UK, and it was a really great opportunity. So we decided to go. And I didn't really want to start a coaching business in the UK. I felt like trying to build that when you're in a new country would have been very isolating. So that's why I decided to go back into the corporate world. And I'm really glad I did. It was an amazing experience. So, I had that 6 months experience as working in the internet cafe, and then like 2.5 years working as a marketing manager with my friend from the woman I knew from Sydney. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. So I'm really glad I didn't get into coaching then. But when I came back to Sydney in 2003, then I started my coaching practice.
So now you did mention, obviously, and I do acknowledge back then, things were not really spoken about, or, there was not a lot of people that would have been experiencing that for you to actually relay that sort of information. So how did you survive those early years, maybe emotionally or spiritually? And
I think the first 18 months of counselling, I felt like I'd been hit by a Mack truck, like every counselling session. I actually thought I would die. When I first started counselling, I actually thought I would die. I thought going into all of that would literally kill me. I mean, I'm really glad I did it now, but at the start, and I think that's why people resist therapy a lot of the time, having to open up that kind of Pandora's box or that can of worms can be really, really difficult for people. So I think for the first 18 months, every session felt like, I'd been hit by a Mack truck. But as you get into it, and I mean, healing's a journey, I think it becomes easier. My first therapist said to me, I think you should go and do EMDR, which is a type of trauma therapy. And I said, I'm never going to do EMDR. And then, 10 years later, I became an EMDR therapist. So, yeah. So I didn't want to go and do EMDR. She felt like a safe attachment person. She was I stayed with my first therapist for 9.5 years because she felt like a safe person that I could attach to. And she really helped me. She really helped me set boundaries. She helped me learn about boundaries. She helped me to set boundaries with my aunt and uncle who were behaving very toxically. They were taking a lot of money from myself, my brother, and my sister. So, yeah, I mean, she was an amazing thing. And then it came to a point where it was like, okay, it was time to move to another therapist that specialized in something else, which was kind of relational therapy. And then, from that, I went to a conference in the States called the Evolution of Psychotherapy Conference in 2009, which was amazing. It's like 8,500 psychotherapists from all around the world. And every trauma expert, every person who had ever written a book was at this conference. People like Harriet Lerner, who wrote The Dance of Anger, Harville Hendricks, who wrote, Getting the Love That You Want. Everyone was there, plus all the trauma experts. And I went to a lot of workshops, and when they were talking, I went there talking about me. Like, this is what's happening with me. This is what's happening in my brain. I'd see brain scans and stuff, and I could really relate to it. So I came back to Australia. I changed therapists. I started having EMDR. It completely changed my life. Mm-hmm. And then a year later, I started to train as an EMDR therapist. And EMDR completely changed my life. It also woke up my brain to the kind of relationship that I was in. And in 2012, I left a 20-year relationship.
Right. So obviously my understanding is you're using your eyes and desensitizing yourself. Can you just maybe walk us through what that sort of...
So EMDR is kind of based on bilateral stimulation. So I trained in EMDR, I trained in a thing called brain spotting, and also sensory motor psychotherapy. So with trauma, it's very much kind of related to what happens in your body and your nervous system and your brain. And so it's kind of connecting your brain, your nervous system, and your body, and helping you to move past traumatic memories. So EMDR is based on a thing called bilateral stimulation. So the therapist will either move their finger back and forward, they might have a light bar, or they might have a ball going across the screen. And so when your eyes move, it's really focusing on what's going on in your subconscious. So our brain does it naturally. When we sleep, in REM sleep, our eyes are darting back and forward. And so that's our brain processing unconscious material. So EMDR is really based on doing something that our brain does naturally. So it takes like a target. So you may say to the therapist, I have this belief that I'm not safe, or I'm not safe in the world. So the therapist would take that target and it starts to desensitize that belief, the negative cognition. It works on an emotional level, a cognitive level, and also a body sensational level. So if you don't change it in your body, you're not able to embody something new.
Right.
So it's very powerful. It's a very powerful therapy. It moves mountains. It's not an easy therapy to do. Brain spotting, also highly effective, maybe a little bit more gentle, probably doesn't move things to the level of EMDR in a shorter period of time, but you have to be able to tolerate EMDR. And then sensory motor is really about understanding how trauma stays in our bodies. There's an amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. A lot of people know of it. Our bodies store it. And there's a saying in kind of trauma work that the body is the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. So when we're healing, it has to be a holistic thing. And then for me, who's a very spiritual person, I think it's also about our soul and our spirit.
But you went on and specialized in neuroscience, trauma, and also complex PTSD, and you were working in private practice. Was that not just putting salt on the wound that was already there?
The problem was, in private practice, I tended to work with a lot of people with personality disorders who didn't have a high capability to change. So I was kind of repeating my family. I've repeated my family a lot in my relationships, friendships, and then at work. And so I got professional burnout because working with complex PTSD is pretty hard. It wasn't so much salt on the wound. It was more like a replication of my family that can't heal.
Right. And you were talking to us about manifestation before. Wasn't that actually just bringing it back into your life? It
was kind of, look, I don't regret it because I learned so much, like for my own healing, becoming a therapist, specializing in trauma, it gave me the tools to heal myself.
Right.
The problem was, the pattern was I was repeating my family, people who don't want to heal, can't heal, don't want to heal. It's not in there. I'm very different to my family. I think my soul is very different to my family. So it's more that I kept attracting, I was manifesting people that were like my family that weren't invested in healing. I'm very invested in healing. So that's the difference. And look, we're all on our own soul's journey. So it's not a judgment. It's just I didn't want to keep replicating my family. So I now work in organizations where I do counseling, but I also teach meditation. And that's very different because it's bringing in a very different energy.
Right. Before we maybe jump into there, you did reference to us 2 siblings within the family. If you're okay to let us know, how do they deal with this?
Look, they're very high functioning, but they're very much in their trauma. And they're very invested in, my uncle just passed away earlier this year. He passed away in April this year. They remained very toxic and they remained very abusive. Not physically violent as they got older. They mellowed in that way, but still toxic. And my brother and sister are still in that structure. And that's all they know. So it's not a judgment, because that's all that they know. They don't understand that life doesn't have to. There's a term called normalizing. They've normalized it.
Normalized it. Absolutely.
Yeah, they've normalized it. That's normality for them. And there's no framework that life can be different.
Absolutely. And obviously fish don't see the water that they swim in. And as you have referenced, you said your soul is on a whole different journey. Now, at what moment did you realize that something wasn't working, the professional burnout was coming?
I've always felt different. I mean, I'm gay. I've been in relationships, and I haven't had successful relationships. So I'm not saying that, I've mastered that by any means. There's a lot of relational trauma, but I don't know. I was the first one to leave, and it's taken a long time. It certainly hasn't happened overnight, but I've really been invested in breaking cycles.
Right. So some people talk about a voice or some sort of sign or things that happen, that
sure.
Or showcase and usher a new life. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think for me it's been spirituality, because I've always had kind of very high psychic ability. So, I've been communicating with my mum. I've always felt like my grandmother has been my guardian angel looking after me. She was that when she was alive. She was very protective. Before she got sick, she was very protective of me, very loving. So I had that as a model. And then since, they're not around physically, spiritually, I've always felt like I've had that guardian angel kind of watching over me. I've had a lot of psychics and mediums. Like my dad has come through a lot. After I left my ex of 20 years, my dad was coming through a lot asking for forgiveness. That took a really long time. Like that was a huge process of having to go through, being in a place where I felt like I could forgive him, because obviously the things that he did were so horrific. So, yeah, and then psychics and mediums have sort of said to me, your parents are in a really good place. Like they've done a lot of work in the afterlife. And look, some people may not believe in this, but it's certainly something that resonates for me. And I've been able to kind of connect with them in a way where their souls are at peace. And it's like, that's been my journey, is not to wait till I die, but is to allow my soul to be at peace. It was interesting when I was doing EMDR. I still have another type of therapy that I go to, which is called NET, neuro-emotional technique. And it muscle tested that EMDR was bypassing the subconscious and the unconscious and going to the soul, going to my soul. So I was like able to kind of read my soul and read other people's souls. So it was kind of, yeah, it's hard to explain. It's something that you can't really explain. It's all on like a energetic kind of level, but I've had that ability since I was very young.
Now, is this the same thing that you can actually redirect the course of the soul's journey, or are you just going to just leave with that journey? And
I think we can. I think, yeah, our soul, like if you're connected to your soul, I think we are on a soul's path and we can transcend this stuff. It's like growing up with, people with narcissistic personality disorder, they can't do self-love. They can't do self-acceptance. They're full of self-hatred. They're full of self-loathing. They're drawn to the darkness and suffering. They don't know how to live in the light. So for me, my soul came in to do the opposite. It's like my journey has been self-compassion, self-love, self-acceptance, healing, light. That's what I feel. I went to the opening night of the Dolly Parton musical a couple of weeks ago, and she's very much the same. She says she's got a very strong faith, Dolly Parton, and she talks about she's here to bring light. I feel like I'm the same. I'm here to teach peace, calm, regulation, love, light. So all the things that my family can't do. So that's why I said I don't feel like I have a judgment of them. That's their soul's journey. And, I was raised Catholic, but I probably follow more of the Buddhist faith. I believe in reincarnation. I feel like they're going to have to come back and do it again. And I feel like I get to do this lifetime doing all the things that they can't do.
I mean, obviously, if you're going to go there, Jackie, why do you think now was the time for you to come?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a very strong, I have a very strong sense of purpose this lifetime for sure. I do feel like I can't change the world, but I can change my little corner of the world. So, when I'm teaching meditation, when I teach regulation, that's who I am as a person. My belief is very much walk gently on this earth, do no harm. So it's kind of like Oprah. It's like she lives by example, and that's what I want to do, is just being the person. Like, that's very much authentic for me. Like, I don't eat meat. I don't use products that are tested on animals. I compost, I recycle. Like, I invest in recycling companies that recycle soft plastics as well as hard plastic. Like, it's just little things that we can do. And if we bring that into business, and I don't do business with people that don't fit my values.
Absolutely. And I quite like that. And I think this time you're uniquely skilled and tooled for the time that we're in right now. I mean, the world really needs a higher vibration, energy healing,
Sure.
A mind spirit integration. There's just a nice
Sure.
concoction of everything else. And I think you're just right smack bang at the middle of it. What sort of what's ripening inside of you that has demanded you to now start speaking up this message?
I just, for me, it's about authenticity and living as part of your essence. It's like, this is my essence. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think about it, because it's kind of like, I really love nature. I really love animals. I don't have judgment of what other people are doing. It's just that this is the authentic me, and I live according to the authentic me, and I follow principles that really, the thing that I love about, like, I've really been studying lately people who are, like actors and stuff. A lot of them grew up in poverty. A lot of them grew up with abuse. Some of them have turned out to be successful and good people. Some of them have turned out to be successful and not so good people. But it's kind of like, I think, being humble, never forgetting where you come from, being connected to your roots, being connected to nature, being connected to animals, and just, being able to influence in a positive way where you can. And that's all I do. It's like, and it's certainly, it's probably been the last 20 years that I've really come into, it's taken time. It certainly didn't happen overnight.
Well, I can only imagine. And thank you so much for going through with this with us. But in the last 20 years or so, I want to venture and start thinking that, you might be having conversations with people, or you might hear people having conversations. And like you said, you don't judge, but obviously other people will be judging. What has been the reception of you showing up and you're saying, yeah, this is, and
I think, sometimes people mistake judgment as, like, I have very strong boundaries. So as a therapist, I have very, very strong boundaries, and there's a lot of stuff I will not tolerate that other people tolerate. And so, sometimes I'm viewed as being judgmental because I have boundaries. But, counselors, boundaries is like counseling 101. It's the biggest thing that counselors will teach people, is to have healthy boundaries, but healthy boundaries aren't often viewed as a good thing. You can be judged as selfish or, self-centered or whatever. And it's not. It's more about, if you don't love yourself, if you don't have self-compassion, if we're talking vibration, there's a huge difference between self-pity and self-compassion. Self-pity is a very low vibration. It's, oh, poor me. Why did this happen to me? Why does this keep happening to me? Why do people treat me this way? Low vibration. Self-compassion is like, I'm going through a really hard time and I'm acknowledging I'm going through a hard time. So I'm going to treat myself with like kindness, love, compassion, and I'm going to be really good to myself as I go through this hard time. Very different vibration. Self-compassion is a very high vibration. Self-pity is a very low vibration.
But you would also understand, like this day and age, not a lot of people have gone through stuff, like the world has gotten softer. Even I was in the playgrounds have gotten even softer. You literally can break your ankle because of how flexible the ground is.
Well, I think when I grew up, we had to be really resilient, it helps you get through. But if you're constantly in resilience, life is always difficult. If you're having to be resilient, then life's always difficult. There's no fun or pleasure or kind of like good things. And I think maybe now the younger generation are lacking in resilience, So, I think needing to become a bit more resilient to be able to get through, life's full of ups and downs. It's full of obstacles. It's full of hard knocks. I mean, that's the reality of life. It's part of life. But we also need to learn resilience. We need to know how to deal with sadness and grief and hardship. But there's also love and joy and peace and calm. We need to be able to feel the spectrum. And so, it's what I would encourage people to do is in business, in life, in your relationships, is learn how to feel the good things as well. And also we have to be responsible for creating that.
Oh, absolutely. Now, somebody might be watching this and thinking, but I haven't gone through all of those things that Jackie would have gone through. So
there's a lot of people who've gone through a lot of things, let me tell you. As a counselor, I hear this stuff a lot. But I think the biggest trap is staying trapped as the victim. People don't know, and they're not willing to do the work. It takes work. I mean, Oprah says the same thing. It takes a lot of hard work. There's the same. You have to do the hard work to make things easy. And it's sometimes easier to not take responsibility, to blame everybody else, not take accountability, and to stay in what I call victim consciousness.
Right. I mean, with the world we live in these days, everyone is probably the brick and nail, and they would want a day off, just so that they can deal with that. But maybe you've worked with clients, like you say, maybe obviously we can go there, and please, if you may, just protect their identity, for obviously that's their story. Is there somewhere where this has actually also worked on other humans, not necessarily people like yourself that are going through already what they're going through and on a whole different path? I just wanted to normalize it for the everyday person who might not have this. Yes.
Yeah. I'm working in organisations. So I'm working up in the mines in Queensland. I'm working in, the Department of Community and Justice in the area where people are dealing with the homeless and people escaping domestic violence, working in child protection. So I'm still working in areas where people are dealing with a lot of stuff. But in the companies I work with, people that come to the meditation, they're willing to look at separating out work and trauma as not necessarily all of life. And that's what I would invite people to do, is it's part of life. It's not all of our life. Everyone's gone through hard times at some stage. Some people have gone through there's a lot of people that have gone through really extreme trauma. But it's whether I think it's a choice. You either heal it or you don't. And if you there's pain in healing it and there's pain in not healing it. But I think the benefits of healing it far outweigh the difficulty of the journey to get there.
You just have to go.
At 60, I just feel like I'm in this place of just I just feel really at peace. I feel at peace with life. I feel at peace with my past. I feel at peace within myself. And so, I just feel like I'm in a really good place, and I want to be able to kind of share that with other people.
Because you've done the work, and I think That's the
I've been in
very
therapy for 30 years, and I often say to my clients, like, even though I'm a therapist, I still see a therapist. I go weekly to work through my stuff because I have to resource myself for the kind of work that I do. I'm a big believer in self-care, and I also think it's an investment in myself.
Now, Jackie, what you combine is a very unique blend of very dangerous skills, because they can help somebody heal. You're combining neuroscience, spirituality, astrology, energetic principles. But I know
Sure.
integration is tricky. You would understand and you would know all of these things. I even had to look up some of the things or the therapies that you, give
Sure.
people. But how do you hold space for someone who just wants maybe evidence or just science, or versus somebody who is just spirit and things of that nature? Do you sometimes ever meet resistance
Sure.
from, more rational clients, and how do you handle that?
No, to me, it's like I can offer both. So people who are really science-based, all the therapies that I do are very science-based. And in the organizations I can't do EMDR, I can't do brains, I can't do any of that. So I will refer them now to other therapists that do that, because I'm working for organizations where I can't bring those therapies in. And that's okay. Like, I feel like I had my time with those therapies. I still use them on myself personally, but I'm not working with that in clients. But I will refer people to other therapists that do that if they have trauma and they need to see a long-term therapist. But some people, meditation's not their thing. So it's like, it's not my role to put pressure on them to come and, it's an invitation to come and try something out. But both spheres, the neuroscience and spirituality, the core thing is regulation. Right. Nervous system regulation and emotional regulation. And I think that's my thing.
Absolutely. And obviously,
I think if we were taught that in schools, like if we were actually taught how to emotionally regulate and how to regulate our nervous system, the world will be a very different place. Like Goldie Hawn has a program called Mind-Up where she teaches, she's brought her program in. She did it with a psychiatrist called Dr. Daniel Siegel. So I did a lot of training with him, and they started this thing called Mind-Up where they teach meditation in schools and emotional regulation. And I think if we could have more of that, the world will be a very different place.
Now, Jackie, what you're just talking about there just reminds me of something that we go through in my culture, where when you're a boy, you get to like 16, and when you're a girl, maybe at around about age 13, you're brought in by the village elders, and then they work with you, they help you really understand who you are becoming, and proverbially tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's your turn to lead now. And pretty much after that, you will then be taught all the things that, you can now go and be a fully fledged adult and ready to start your own family. And some people sort of allude that or put that to be somewhat of a rite of passage. And what I feel like you're talking about is that pattern break that is needed, because everybody just grows up, kindergarten, high school, university, get married, go to work. Nobody presents that sort of pattern break in the first world. Would I be wrong in assuming that you also have to go through your go-throughs as a...
it's breaking conditioning. It's like I had very, very strong conditioning, and if I hadn't gone down the therapy route, I would have definitely headed down the same path as the rest of my family. But I wanted to, that conditioning doesn't fit for who I am as a person. Doesn't mean I don't drop into it at times. It doesn't mean that, I don't believe in perfectionism. There's no perfect human being. There's no perfect life. So I still make mistakes. I've had heaps of failures along the way, and so it doesn't mean that I don't drop into that conditioning. It's just I'm more aware of it, and I have good tools on how to break it.
Is there something that you maybe still struggle with? I mean, you can answer this if you want to, but and something that you're still working on personally
Yeah, I think it's finding my tribe, who want to live the same way that I do, that, have the same values as I do, that are into healing as much as I am. People who've worked, like, want to kind of rise above victim consciousness. So yeah, I think, for me, the biggest area where it's my history played out the most is definitely in my intimate relationship. I mean, I've been in intimate relationships since I was 14. I left my ex when I was 47. We were together 20 years. I'm now 60. And I think it's finding that person who wants to live a kind of peaceful life like me.
Absolutely. Well, that obviously is something that you will still be on a path to, but now you're
Sure.
helping others be, do, and have a happy existence in their own way. Tell us a bit about the retreats that you're going to be doing. And
I was just going to say too, it's also about people that are prepared to break relationship patterns, because we're all kind of repeating what we know. So there's a saying that is, we go to what's familiar, and the Latin term for familiar is based from the word family. We go to family.
Family.
Yeah.
Right.
So we go to what's familiar. So it's being able to kind of break those familiar patterns.
Great. Now, Jackie,
And that takes work.
I understand. You did mention that it's got a lot of work that goes into it, and people have to be receptive to it. But let's leave this maybe for people that might just want to maybe connect with you. Are you open to that?
Sure.
That so they can maybe have a chat, find out if you'll be the person to hold their hand, or whichever way that you'll be able to help them.
Yeah. So I don't work in private. I don't work in private practice anymore. I'm working kind of in organisations, but people are more than free to touch base with me, and I can point you in the right direction. I run a lot of workshops and things like that, so you can feel free to come to workshops. I am going to be running my first meditation retreat, and it's on manifesting love and healing in Sri Lanka next year. It's going to be, I think, March 27th to April the 1st. So if people want details of the retreat, they're more than welcome to kind of touch base with me through you. Or they can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Absolutely. I'll put all those links in the show notes so that people can actually find their way.
I've got a website that kind of talks a bit about my story and kind of the things that I do. But I'm really excited about the retreat in Sri Lanka. So I did one for my 60th birthday at this particular place this year, April this year. Right. And so I decided I'm going to go back and run my own over there.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are probably just umming and ahhing, maybe Sri Lanka is a little bit too far for them on the map, or they don't even know where it is on the map. What sort of parting words would you want to give to them, especially?
Yeah, look, the Sri Lankan one is kind of, it's because where I was born. The place is absolutely beautiful. The food is so delicious. Sri Lanka is not that hard to get to. It's kind of like an 11-hour flight. You can get direct flights from Sydney. And so, a lot of people go to Bali. Sri Lanka's got a lot to offer. It's stunningly beautiful. And also, if there's enough interest, I'll start running retreats here, closer to home.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Jackie, I mean, obviously, your life story and your experience have got so much value for those that you have allowed to meet at this intersection of your soul's journey. And I really appreciate that you did stop by.
Prosper, I'm so grateful and thankful for you. It's been such an amazing conversation. I feel like I've just been talking to a friend. And you asked really great questions, and I'm very appreciative of you inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this. And like you did say, you are on your path to be looking for kindred spirits or people that are along that sort of way. So be careful what you ask for. You've created a friend here, so thank you.
I know I'm very I've been the last probably year have really been, I think, because when you go through those experiences, you can kind of shut down your heart and you can kind of put walls up and be very protective. So I've been really kind of mindful of opening up to being more loving, and not so protective. for obvious reasons, I learned to protect myself from an early age. And so, yeah, I'm still like, I'm still the student. Like, I feel like I've got a lot of wisdom at 60, but I'm still the student and I'm still learning as well.
Well, as they say, learning never ends. And
That's right.
as you also believe in reincarnation and things of that nature, or I don't think we've started these journeys. They just keep
For sure.
absolutely. So thank you so much. Wow, what an incredible deep dive. I thought we were just gonna come and have a chat about cats and the pet shop and things of that nature, but little did I know that we're gonna have such a deep dive. So thank you so much, Jackie, for just showing us first of all your path, the tension, the invisible threads, and just the tools that you've actually drawn from that are able to guide so many. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Prosper. As I said, I feel very grateful and blessed that we were able to have that conversation today.
Great stuff. Now, to everybody listening, if something Jackie shared with you struck you or resonated with you, whether it was about rewiring, energetic and alignment, or maybe just the healing from these unseen wounds, I want you to just pause now. First of all, breathe it in, and then I'll tell you something. This work is not aspirational. It is actually possible. All right. And while you're at it, reach out to Jackie and just have a chat with her, find out how you can work with her, rewire yourself so that you don't have to keep going around in these circles. There is a life to be lived and obviously a happier existence. But as Jackie says, you need to work for it. Okay. So maybe, I'm really excited for what we learned today. And I'm not sure what you're going to do with this information. Maybe it was just that pattern break that we're talking about that you saw required, because just going around in circles is a bit exhausting. And for those that would understand what I'm about to say right now, I think you have arrived. Reach out to Jackie. Let her show you what the next possible step is. And until next time, bye for now.